Aloha and welcome to today's webinar, Starting a Language Program. This webinar is being presented by the ANA Pacific region on behalf of the Administration for Native Americans. This is a national webinar. Today is March 12th, 2015, and it is 4 p.m. Eastern Time and 10 a.m. here in Hawaii. A little bit about ANA, the Administration for Native Americans, who is hosting this session, promotes self-sufficiency for Native Americans by providing discretionary grant funding for community-based projects and training and technical assistance to eligible tribes and Native organizations. And ANA's whole vision is for all Native communities to be thriving. And so until that's accomplished, they'll be working towards that goal. And here in the Pacific, um, we offer training and technical assistance to organizations that serve the Native communities of our islands, as well as Native Americans living in our region. And Lefetuao Samoan Language Center, who will be featuring on today's webinar, they are serving uh, Native American Samoans who are living in Hawaii. And so we're glad to be able to feature them on today's webinar. Oh, and if you want to learn more about ANA, you can visit their website. It's there on screen, acf.hhs.gov/programs/ANA. And so ANA hosts webinars every other week. They'll always be on a Thursday. And the next webinar is directly related to today's topic, and that is how to sustain a language program, specifically on finding other funding sources and ways that you can keep your language project going after grant funding is done. And so the ANA Eastern region will be presenting that webinar on March 26th. You can register online when it's available at their website, www.anaeastern.org, or you could look them up on ANA's events calendar. That will be on the events section of the ANA website. And you'll also find registration forms for other upcoming trainings and either online or in real life on that page. And so please check that out when you get a chance. And so for today's webinar, we're really focusing on starting a language program and, starting a program that is sound in fundamentals, that qualifies for possible future ANA funding, and most importantly, will work towards the successful rebuilding of our native languages. And so at this point, I'm going to hand it off to today's presenter for the main portion of the presentation, and that is the Pacific Region Director, Keone Nunez. Keone?
Aloha. Thanks, Matt. Today's webinar is going to look at some of the things that are specific to doing language programs for ANA. Uh, Looking at the participant list of people who are in the room right now, many of you have started language programs and have been successful in your language programs. So this will look at what is necessary to start a language program and make it fundable within ANA. Okay, what makes preparing for a language project different than any other ANA project? There are a lot of things that are very similar. You have to do the basic steps like community involvement, identifying the problem, creating goals and objectives, creating activities, and assessing progress. But all of those steps have really, really fine-tuned issues that needs to be looked at in order to create a language program that would be sustainable and will be successful within the ANA process. And that is one of the things that I think is really important. The community involvement piece. We'll go through a lot of these one by one, and we will be including a lot of things that have been learned within our experience of um, giving technical assistance to the Pacific region, but it has implication in all of the regions. Yeah. Within the community involvement, the status of the language is very, very important. And when you're looking at the status of the language, you have to look at several aspects of it. How many native language speakers are there in your community? What is the average age of your native language speakers? How many youth are native language speakers? What is the population of your community? And is there interest in your community to start a language project? Now, for many people, when they're looking at the status of the language, they look at merely the overall status, whether it's being spoken on a daily basis, whether you hear it in the community, that type of things. But you have to get very specific with this because this will help you formulate a project that will be successful. There are some things that we do not want to acknowledge sometimes. And part of it is that some of our languages are very, very much endangered. And so you might think that, well, we don't have very many native language speakers. Um, so how can we utilize it in a way that people will think that it's fundable? I think that regardless of what your number of native language speakers are, as long as there's community interest in starting a language project, that's the most important thing. And ANA has changed a little bit of the FOAs from last year to this year. Within the native language sections, the preservation and maintenance and the Esther Martinez initiative. Um, Last year, they said that in order to start a language project, you had to have at least one native speaker. They've changed that. They do not have that requirement anymore. I think there is realization that in some communities, the sad reality is that the time that you spend in preparing your application and submitting your application, from that time of submission to the time of approval, things might change. And so it's been taken out. So one of the things that you might want to consider, especially if your average age of your native language speakers are on the higher end, in their 70s, 80s, and 90s and above, um, is to think about capturing some of their speech and talking to them about language via and capturing that via recordings or video or something of that nature because that's really important. You have to have a baseline in which to start your language program and know where it's going. Yeah. If you look at this map, this is the endangered, at risk, or severely endangered communities within the United States. And if you look at the red dots, that is severely endangered languages. And you notice that there are many, many red dots throughout the continental United States and in the Pacific. There are endangered languages that are in the same um, areas. If you look at it, the endangered and the severely endangered, really outweighs the ones that are at risk or whose vitality is unknown. Oftentimes, they say vitality is unknown because they might not have any language speakers left, but they're not sure about it. And so that's something that is really important. Um, if you look throughout the continental US, Alaska, and in the Pacific, we really, really have an overabundance of endangered and severely endangered languages out there. Um, and that does include the Hawaiian language and even to the extent the Samoan language, although the Samoan language is spoken in Samoa and in American Samoa, that's having less and less of a native language base, native speaker base, I should say, on the islands of Hawaii and outside of the island of Samoa, the islands of Samoa. Even in American Samoa, they're having some issues around youth becoming native language speakers. If you're interested in this map and more, to and look at this because uh, it's it might seem that it is kind of depressing. But uh, I think we really, really do need to know how our language back up. Uh, to the rest of the world. And if you see uh, in other areas, if you look at New Guinea and Indonesia, uh, Australia, um, in South America, a lot of people are in the same boat as many of us are. We're just fortunate that ANA has has um, some of the monies to support Native languages. And I'm very, very appreciative of that. Within the strategic planning sets of your project, you have to assess your resources. What resources do you have? Um, financial curriculum, instructional material, human resources. Now, oftentimes when we looking at resources, the first thing up is what financial resources do we have? Uh, I would say that this is a very, very important thing to consider, but at the same time realize that you are creating a project that will hopefully at least give you some seed money to start the project off. So the financial considerations, although important, should be looked at it in perspective as to what is necessary and what is good for the community. The curriculum is another thing. The curriculum, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. There are a lot of curriculums out there. What curriculum do you think would be good for your language community? Oftentimes, when we look at curriculum, we don't look at instructional materials. And instructional materials are essential to the success of any project determining language. Now, these are things that are very, very specific just to language programs. Yeah, these instructional materials might include what books are there that are written within the language that you could utilize, that uh, you could use in maybe a preschool to sixth grade curriculum. What instructional materials can you use that are from seventh grade all the way up to high school? So oftentimes when we're looking just at curriculum, we're not looking at what supportive instructional materials there is. Um, and that's something that we need to consider. Okay, and the most important is what human resources are there. And oftentimes, the people who are the native speakers, like I said, are a little up in age, and it's important to include them. But with this inclusion, you have to really determine how they're going to be included. Yeah. If you're going to pay them as staff and they're elderly, will that affect some of their financial assistance that they're having if they're on Medicaid and Medicare? Those are some things that needs to be taken into consideration, especially when working with the elderly, that we don't necessarily think about when we're doing other type of programs. But unfortunately, for many communities, native language speakers are a little bit older than the general population, and you need to take those things into consideration. The instructional preparation is important to look into. The curriculum building, the curriculum development. Do you need to develop your own curriculum? Oftentimes, we don't have curriculums that we are satisfied with within our own language base. Yeah. Would you use a current curriculum and adjust it to your needs? For example, take an English standard curriculum and translate it into your native language to create a curriculum unique to your community. That's been one of the hardest things for a lot of people who are starting language programs to wrap their minds around, because mostly you will be teaching language using an English base. And is that the best way of doing it? Is there another way of teaching that would be much more effective within your community? And you really have to take that into consideration. Um, I know there are many people that in the start of their language program has taken the English standard curriculum and just translated it to utilize within their schools. But later on, they've been developing curriculum that is more unique to their own community and more tailored to their own community. And that kind of things are really important to take into consideration. Again, what kind of support materials are there to make your curriculum successful? Uh, Oftentimes in this day and age, we're very fortunate because we can access videos and audio libraries. And sometimes these things are really, really important for us to utilize within the curriculum that is either been developed or will be developed. Yeah, it's a little bit better now than before for some languages as far as books and other um, paper resources that are written within the language, but it's still a great need out there. And I remember early on in Hawaii, there was a language program that started, and in essence, the instructional material was just buying kids' books and translating it into the native language, into Hawaiian, in this case, cutting it out and pasting it into the books that are uh, currently being being bought in the stores. Now, the other thing that this happened a while ago, and I think today is a real different situation. But one thing that you have to take into consideration by doing this, are you going to violate any copyright laws? Are you going to uh, do any copyright infringement by doing this type of things? And those are some things that you got to think about in language programs that you don't necessarily need to think out in any other type of program. Yeah. Create a reasonable timeline, especially for language programs. Create a reasonable timeline. Allow enough time to develop and assess the curriculum. Oftentimes, this is one of the steps that many language programs kind of rush. They want to get the curriculum developed within the first year. Now, for some communities, this is achievable. For others, I would say take your time because this is the curriculum that you are going to extend your language community with. Yeah, so allow enough time to develop and assess the curriculum. To give you an idea, if you try and do it in the first year, realize that the first 3 months is going to be taken up in staffing and getting your project ramped up to do the work. If you want to have the curriculum fully developed, um, you only allowing yourself 9 months to do that, and that includes um, time for pilot or equivalent in order to give it a proper assessment and rewrite. 9 months isn't a long time to develop curriculum. And so allow yourself enough time. Create a reasonable timeline. And oftentimes people just think that um, there is just one or 2 years in which they need to really get it ramped up and get it uh, running. You know, if you need 3 years, and I would say many language programs would need more than just 1 or 2 years. If you're doing curriculum development, don't do it in 1 year. Yeah. If you are writing for an ANA project, in my opinion, don't do a curriculum development project just in 1 year. And the reason being is that not only are you dealing with the startup time of 3 months, you're dealing with a closeout time at the end of the year, which is anywhere from a month to 3 months, depending on the capacity of your organization. So you're only allowing anywhere from 6 to 8 months for the actual writing, piloting, and rewriting of the curriculum. Allow you guys enough time to do those things. The implementation. And uh, oftentimes within implementation, we do not think of certain things as we're starting to visualize our project, our language project. I would encourage you to think about some of these things. Where is the site of instruction? Is it central to your community? Is it accessible? What if the parents have a hard time accessing transportation? Is there transportation, public transportation that is nearby that they can access? Those are some things that we don't necessarily think about. And for some projects, to be real honest, we don't have the luxury of actually choosing the sites. We make do with the site that is given to us. There's nothing wrong with that, but realize that sooner or later, this is going to come up as a challenge and that you need to address it for your language project to be successful. The other thing is certification of teachers. In Hawaii, we've had some issues around the certification, especially of elders as teachers. Within a Western mindset, you're taught to become teachers. Within a more native mindset, there are natural teachers out there. Also, and this is my own personal opinion, so it's not the opinion of any communities or anything. But once you go through the steps of getting your degree, getting your teacher certificate, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good teacher, especially for language. To me, it means that you're a good student, that you went through all of the hoops necessary to get the degrees. Sometimes our elders
Talofa lava ma lo le soifua Pakisai, Keone Nunes, and Kaanali Al staff for inviting us to share our stories. I would say the journey of Lefetuaho Samoan Language Center here in Honolulu, Hawaii. It's been a very interesting and a great learning process for all of us in this project. So Dr. John Mayer is on standby right now, and he'll be adding on to what I will share. Um, Lefetuao, I would say that our journey is a journey of gathering. That process of learning is more important than the product. So I'd like to share a Samoan proverb that, for everybody. There's a Samoan saying, "Eleai se whaiwai asa male mau mau." This proverb talks about a fishing mission out to sea. When fishermen go out fishing, there will always be problems or drawbacks. So no endeavor is free from problems or drawbacks. And problems and drawbacks should not be roadblocks to drive us to our mission and our vision. And the reason is because we should continue to move forward because we see the need. Families and children are very hungry for knowledge and understanding about our native language and culture, something that our education system cannot provide. But we, as native communities, can provide that wealth of knowledge and understanding to bridge the gap of learning and at the same time empower parents and children to work together and contribute on building a healthy family with a strong education foundation. And we're very fortunate to have ANA and all our technical support, agencies that's providing help, you know, to all of us. One of the things that we always look at is the success of this community-based effort is working with like-minded people. It is the key. People that are passionate with the work and those that would take an extra step ahead that will initiate things to have a successful project. And at the same time, we're building a community of learners when we come together. We reflect a lot and we identify those key personnel that you continue to move forward as community members. We want to, I want to share that one of the ways or the strategy that I use as a leader is we want to have, we want our community to think that they are experts. In order to get their buy-in, which is one of the biggest challenges that we face in the beginning of setting up this project, we want them to, we want to empower them that they are the ones that will bring that wealth of knowledge in order for us to have a successful implementation. So we focus more on the we can do it perspective rather than saying we can't. So I want to share some of the challenges that we faced. One of the biggest challenges that we faced when we first started is not having a home, no space. In order to build a successful language program, you want to, have a home where you build the ownership of learning. Building that ownership in the learning environment contributes to a successful implementation. Unfortunately for us, not having a location where we call home to Lefetuao continues to be a challenge. But we thrive through the process of building this community partnership. So in our implementation, everything is mobile. Hauling things back and forth continues to be a struggle, but we never let that stop us from continuing. So I can say we're very fortunate to have like-minded people and working with our community that we thrive through these challenges and we made it happen. Another challenge I like to share is the personnel turnover, like what Keone had mentioned. Um, planning ahead is very important. You want to look at hours of commitment and identify the best fit versus the time commitment to fulfill the task. You look at your tasks and activities and plan accordingly around those areas so that you have a good time frame to avoid any frustration or any problems. Another challenge I can say through our journey is the teacher training. Um, with Samoan language being the least, which is considered a least commonly taught language as shared by Dr. John Mayer during our meetings, we have less resources and materials. These have been developed, but they're all sporadically, um, you know, everywhere. So with our work right now, we're trying to combine. We bring these resources and we identify the best, um, resources that meet our needs within our own learning environment. Not everything will fall, will fit with our activities and everything that we do. So, the teacher training, right, right now, we're working on it at this time due to the technology integration of using technology to teach language. It's a new concept with Samoan language. So we're currently addressing um, technology and language right now, which is new. So Dr. John Mayer had shared with our group that you know we're currently with the current generation, we're considered digital natives. They're considered digital natives. For us, old generation, we're digital immigrants. And ideas are very old, but we want to keep up with the current trends and to make learning fun and exciting for the children. Um, through our program with the technology integration, we found out that the children are experts of technology. So when we train them the skills, they're able to pick up, and then we mentor them and guide them through our language lessons. And that's where everybody meets together because, we're all learning together at the same time. Um, some of the challenges I can say that, um, like what Keone had mentioned with the cost of, of the language, the classes. We want, our program is free, but we're looking at sustainability at this time, and we identify the best ways to sustain our program so that it's affordable to our community. Um, so that's one of the challenges, but I could say that we're continuing. We want to target these issues right away because our third year is next year. So the questions that we're working at this time is how can we continue this? Also, it's a free program. Who will fund a lot of these activities if we don't get any funding in the future? So there's also fundraising committees being developed through our advisory board. Another challenge that we find is transportation, getting the families to attend the classes. For some families, they work many jobs, and it prevented them to bring the children over to attend the classes. So, um, you know, those are some of the things you have to consider. Churches are receptive, but we're expanding our services to help them. As you can see on this picture, the top group photo is Leketua, which is the center location here in Salt Lake. And the bottom one is one of our sites that we recently developed out in Waianae site. So their school is called Fesita Five. So right now, we have two language sites in Honolulu at this time. With Leketua site, we have 116 registered, participants, registered participants in our system. We can only take about 70 something people at this time due to the limitation of the facility. That means we have 60 something in our wait list at this time. With the Silafai sites out in Waianae, they serve about 30 students in that community. And we're gradually helping them to learn and also um, train the teachers and teacher assistants at that site. Um, Another challenge I can share is building a relationship with government agencies. We can sense as we're trying to build that bridge, we can we can sense the reluctance to teach the heritage language in the system. And how can we work around some of these roadblocks so that we continue this mission? Um, Education, I know some of it can be funded under the administrations of children and families. We're under that umbrella. So as leaders, we think along the lines of where um, these departments are providing us the resources to develop these programs. We should all work together, no matter what agency, but there should be a way in order to identify ways so everybody can work together because it's coming from one pot under this Department of Administration for Children and Families. And I know for a fact that Hawaii Public Education also tap into those pot of funding. So for us as community, leaders, we want to advocate for to build that bridge so that we have a smooth partnership and working together with our local government agencies. Unfortunately, we find that right now as a challenge. But um, so, like I mentioned, we want to focus more on the we can do it. So I want to share some of the successes, and there's a lot to share with you, but some of the top key things I want to share in this um, webinar is a community-based project catering to the needs of the community, which is our focus. The student achievement in learning Samoan language. A lot of our participants came in with no knowledge or understanding of Samoan language. But through the process, we can see progression. Assessment, we don't have assessment or measurement tools in our Samoan language. But through the process, we're able to develop some of these um, measurement tools or assessment that we can use to identify progress in learning Samoan. So another success I can share is uh, the participants progress, through our activities. We have some of our participants that are stepping in and saying, hey, I want to start learning how to teach the language. So first as a learner, and now we have participants moving in and they want to become teachers. And that is something that I heard from Punana Leo as well, which is very, it's a similar theme that we're experiencing right now. Um, Another success is consolidating resources and materials to teach Samoan language. These materials will be available to our community agencies or other organizations that are interested to teach Samoan. And I recently received a phone call today from one of our church leaders in Seattle who is interested to set up a Samoan language. So another church leader here in Honolulu, he's requiring all 6 churches under the Samoan Methodist, the Samoan Methodist, to have Samoan language incorporated in their Sunday school implementation, which is a really great success to hear from our community leaders because of what we've been working on. They see the value now. There's a sense of identity, the community feel. People are coming together and learn the sense of belonging. People are more comfortable, and new learners, they feel safe that they can learn and make mistakes. Um, but we encourage them. Uh, there's success of building a project that will serve as a model for other Samoan organizations and outside. So another thing that I like to mention is the success of this is building a model that will supplement regular education in a sense of providing guidance and mentorship to basic skills in education. One example is enhancing the importance of, we want to enhance the importance of basic needs in learning, meaning we want our children to be prepared when they learn. Do you have your tools ready? Are you on time? In Lepetual, we don't perpetuate the saying that there is a Psalm 1 time. There is no such thing as a Psalm 1 time. Those are people developed ways, mindset. And we don't want to encourage that because it becomes a drawback to a lot of our people. So we have volunteers, community connection, which maximizes the education resources and data use. And all of that, um, you know, one of the successes, it gave us the opportunity, A&A with this A&A funding, it provided us an opportunity to attend conferences of islands. We share with others. We're able to build our networks. Uh, we gather and we also take, we take what we need from what we learn from those people. So it's been a rich experience. And our social media connection has been actively and successful. I can say that, we work with one of our community leaders that's very effective in getting our social media community connection with our project. Her name is Alice Malipeai Silvano. So we have our website. Before ANA, I was able to get a student from the University of Hawaii College of Education, which built our website, and then ANA funded us. We continue to work with the University of Hawaii Center on Disability Studies. Our tech camp, we fill in when Hawaii DOE is not in operation. So we provide language classes using technology. So next week is spring break. So we'll be offering a tech camp for our participants, and it's a free program. It'll be hosted, it'll be housed over at Kroc Center in Kapolei. So we're looking forward to that, and it's a partnership with Pacific Voices. And one of the things that keeps the momentum of everything, the leadership and working this project, every week we're required to meet. Our executive team meetings is every Tuesday of each week. We meet with our leaders and we reflect upon the implementation, and then we plan and move forward. So I like to, not sure on it if we have enough time, but I'm going to give some time to everyone to ask their questions. Um, I like to end by saying that um, Fituao in Samoan means morning star. Our hope, like in our mission and mission, the rays of the morning star will rise from the horizon, will shine to every center, corners where Samoan people live. So the work that we're doing will be able to benefit the future generation to continue learning the native language. So thank you very much for listening in. I know, I've been throwing in is points about some of the successes and challenges that we face as a community-based program. But I could say it's been a really good journey, and we're learning a lot as well.
Mahalo, Elizabeth. I do have a question, and this is something that Dr. Mayer can probably put his expertise in. Is that I've seen your curriculum, and your curriculum is really great. But it's not like any other curriculum that you see with language, and there's a lot of cultural stuff that's embedded in that. How did you come to create that curriculum? And this is for for you, Elizabeth, but I'd like to hear Dr. Mayer's response also.
Yes, I can say that we've gathered a lot. I'm an educator by trade, and I've been collecting a lot of Samoan language resources and materials during my years of teaching. And with any resource that you pick up or a curriculum that you want to identify, specifics on what fits your learning environment. So for me, when I picked up a curriculum from New Zealand or American Samoa, I would think along the environment, the learning environment here in Honolulu, Hawaii. How can children that are born and raised in Honolulu with Samoan ancestry learn or benefit from these materials? What are some of the things that I can adjust? So with what we built, these are resources or topics from some of the parents and some of the people in our Hawaii community. So we do a lot of reflection as well. Every Saturdays after our lessons, we have an hour of teacher reflection. And from there, that's where we refine through those reflections. Teachers would tell us, and we would look at our resources and adjust accordingly to their learning environment. So it's the same thing with Y and I. We would build a lesson or a language activity here at Lefetuao. When we take those activities to Y&I, it's a different setting. It's a different environment. So teachers there are encouraged to look at it and adjust it and refine it. So, and it's the process of getting it, of putting it together so that it fits our learning environment of the children. Okay, I have a question that says, saying how. Um, okay, so I guess we we um, we collected a lot of our materials and resources from the University of Hawaii Samoan Language Program. You can see how it's structured according to different levels on adult levels. And it was already developed by the University of Hawaii with Dr. John Mayer's work for many years. They've been doing this for many years. So with us in the community-based level, we look at those materials and we identify, okay, how can we teach this to the students that we have in Lefetuao? And, we encourage our teachers to look at, the level of Samoan language right now. Like I shared before, we don't have current assessment and Samoan language measurement tools to identify the level where the students are at. But we're currently working right now to, um, to refine and also develop more resources to to help us at this time. Oh, eh, would I be able to pass? Uh, your email so I can get additional information. Yes, you can email me at alaimale@hawaii.edu. Dr. John Mayer and Alice Silvanus, those are some of our executive team members that are willing to share, um, a lot of what we do here and even the resources that we've developed. Um, I can say some of the teaching resources and activities that we incorporated at Lipituao. I learned some of that from um, our Hawaiian friends and people that I've known when I worked at the University of Hawaii as well.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Just to answer a little bit more of Deborah Ellen's question, we will have some information on the last slide on how you could get an email from us. Um, and yeah, you have on Guam, you have other island groups, and they don't fall under any, unfortunately. But uh, that you might have to go to DOI, Department of Interior, and they have some funding sources, or the Department of Education. I am not real certain as to what kind of programs they have specifically for language. I know the Department of Education does, but whether or not they support language acquisition from other uh, island groups, it's hard to say. What I would like to say is I would like to thank Elizabeth and John, Dr. Mayer, and also congratulate them because earlier this month they were recognized by Harvard University's Bright Ideas program for its innovative approach to perpetuating the Samoan language and culture. So, your work is not being unnoticed, and that's really, really important. One thing I would also like to let you guys know is that currently in the federal government, there is a Senate Bill 678, and it was introduced by a senator from Oklahoma, which will say that the official language of the U.S. will be English. Now, I don't know what kind of what's going to happen with other native languages if this passes, but it's something that all of us who are concerned about native languages should be um, aware of. Again, it's Senate Bill 678, and I've forgotten the name, but it was introduced by a senator from Oklahoma, making English the official language of the United States of America. And so, again, I have not read the bill in its entirety because if people know that some of the bills are really, really long, and that came to my attention early this morning. So, that's something that all of you should be aware of. Yeah. Okay. We're coming down to the end of our presentation, and I'd like to ask for any final questions, or Dr. Mayer, if you want to add anything to, we would really, really like your input. Yeah.
Thank you, Kenny. I don't really have anything to add. As you could tell, PETA is the heart of our program, and she articulates everything very well. If people have questions, you can always email us, and I suppose that the best way to do that would be to go to the website, ledfitual.com, and you can find our contacts there. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Mahalo, Dr. Mayer, and mahalo ho ia o ko pakahia pau no ka ho'olohe ana ki a webinar e pili ana ki a mau mea nui e pili ana ka ho'omau ka olelo o iwia. Thank all of you guys for attending this, and hopefully this has been helpful for you to really focus down on the information that is necessary for you to have a successful language program.
All right, yeah, and thank you, Keone, for presenting the training portion of the webinar. And once again, thank you to Elisabetta and Dr. Mayer from the FETUEL for your story. Um, uh, oh, 1 second.
Just a little technical difficulty, but we'll get it worked out.
So we have more resources that you might want to check out. We have our native language Google community, which is a Google Plus group used by different native language leaders from across the nation and the Pacific. And so that's an ANA community forum where people share different language resources and stories and current events and funding opportunities from ANA and outside. And so you're a, if you most of your work is in native languages, you might want to join that group. Just find plus.google.com and then you'll find the native language Google community. And by the way, I'll be sending out links to all of these resources in a follow-up email, and I'll be emailing that out to everyone who registered for this webinar. So if you are attending the webinar and did not register for it, please go back to the registration form as soon as this is done and just type in your email address, and you'll receive all the stuff that we talked about today, including today's PowerPoint. Another resource that you might want to look at is the native language funding opportunities that ANA provides. They have two different language funding initiatives. The first is the Preservation and Maintenance Grant, which is the general language supporting grant that ANA offers. And the other is called the Esther Martinez immersion grant, and that is focused on projects that deal with language nests or immersion style education. And you can find more about those on the funding opportunities page of the ANA website. The funding deadline recently passed on March 4th, and so now is a perfect time to start developing your project for next year's funding cycle. And there's also some past webinars that we've done in the recently that you might want to check out. We have our language assessment and proficiency tools webinar, which went specifically over creating assessment tools that you can tailor to your program. And then we had another one called Champions of Native Language, in which Elisabetta was featured in addition to two other native language educators and leaders. And so those are both available on the Ka'anani'au Pacific Region TTA Center YouTube channel, and I'll be emailing that out to everyone who participated in today's webinar as well. You can also find that in the resource library of the ANA website. There's also a bunch of other webinars on the ANA resource library that would also be applicable to this webinar. So thanks once again for attending. I'm just going to leave this contact info up on the screen as we close out. On the right is the contact info for Le Fetoual, and feel free to contact them. And on the left is the contact info for Keone Nunez, who was the presenter from the ANA Pacific Region TTA Center for today's presentation. So thank you very much for attending today's webinar, Starting a Language Program. This has been a production of the Administration for Native Americans a national webinar, and today is March 12th, 2015. Aloha.